Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's your boy DLloyd. So the Madden Curse. Well, the Madden Curse is strikes again, man. Patrick Mahomes, the guy who was gracing the cover of Madden NFL 20, he just went down with a dislocated knee, man. The reigning MVP. That sucks. That definitely sucks, man. He had the ankle issues, then the dislocated knee. He is fortunate, however. It looks like he may only miss about 3 games because there's no ligament damage. So that is the plus. That is the good news. However, the Madden Curse is going to be brought back up because, of course, he's on the cover of Madden. We've seen what's going on with Antonio Brown, and a lot of people believe this. Now, some people think maybe it's just a coincidence. Some people don't believe it at all. If you ask me, I don't know. It's a lot of coincidences to not really believe it. But what we're going to do here in this video is we're going to quickly, I don't want to drag this thing out too long, but we're going to look at each person going back to Madden 2000. Yes, you could look at Madden 99 with Garrison Hurst and his injury, but we know he was cursed. So to make things simple, we will start at Madden 2000 and work our way up, and we will look and really see if the player that year was cursed or not, because some people will have you believe that nobody made it through the curse, and I could try to point out some people who I think did make it through the curse. So just me and you, we're gonna figure this thing out right now. So starting at Madden 2000, you had John Madden on the cover, but behind John Madden you had Barry Sanders. So of course John Madden, he lived through it, right? He was never involved with the curse. Unfortunately, it's a little bit different for Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders coming off an incredible season, right? Well, how did his season stack up after being on the cover of Madden 2000? Well, he didn't have a season. He retired out of nowhere. So, is Barry Sanders suffering from the curse? That's a tough one to call because he just simply did not play. He walked away on his own. It wasn't like he was hurt and walked away. He walked away on his own, but for argument's sake, we're going to go ahead and rate this as Barry Sanders was cursed for being on the cover of Madden 2000. All right, cool. Let's look at Madden 2001. My guy, Eddie George. You guys know I'm a Tennessee Titans fan, man. Unfortunately, we'll come back up later also. But Eddie George was on the cover of Madden 2001, the first Madden on the PlayStation 2 console. What did he do after that? Well, he had 1,500 yards in the season he was on the cover. I don't think that's that bad, but when you look at it, he also had a career high in fumbles. He also bobbled the ball that turned into an interception that lost the Tennessee Titans the game in the playoffs to the Baltimore Ravens. And after the season, he was never really the same guy. He only averaged 3.4 yards per carry throughout the rest of his career after he was on that. So, great season, probably his best season he had. He fumbled the ball a lot. He gave up the game-losing turnover, and then he was never the same after that, including the year that he was in Dallas. But we're not going to talk about that one at all. It's pretty pathetic at that point. But it's Eddie George curse from 2001. I'm gonna say yeah, man, because if you look at the replays on that play where he lost the game, that's an easy play. So we'll go ahead and chop down. This one was close, but we'll chop up Madden 2001 Eddie George as cursed. Moving on to Madden 2002, my man Dante Culpepper, man. My dude with the butt crack face mask, he was out there, had a great year, had 33 touchdowns, 11-5 as a starter. Culpepper came out of nowhere. He was tearing it up, especially with Randy Moss. Now, how did he fare when he was on the cover? Well, he was injured, so he missed 6 games. He fumbled just a little bit, a little fumbling problem with 16. He has 16 fumbles on the year. He threw 14 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. He was 4-7 as a starter. This is right after the year he threw 33 and was 11-5 as a starter. Basically, everything crashed down for Dante Culpepper. This is an easy one, fellas. We don't have to worry about this one at all. My man Dante Culpepper was cursed for being on the cover of Madden 2002. Now let's look at Madden 2003. My man Marshall Faulk, man, Hall of Famer, great career. Coming into the season, he had 5 1,000-yard seasons in a row and 3 straight 1,300 total yard campaigns, right? So Marshall Faulk doing everything, right? The greatest show on turf. Took him to 2 Super Bowls. But what happened after he was on the cover? Well, he was just never the same. Missed half a dozen starts, never went over 1,000 yards again. In fact, every year after this, his stats got worse and worse. So Marshall Faulk, Hall of Famer, man, great talent, but you were cursed after being on the cover of Madden 2003. So not a great start. Not a great start, I'm not going to lie. So let's look at Madden 2004. My man Michael Vick, the first ever Madden that I went to the midnight release to pick up. My man Michael Vick, he was like an idol to me when I was a kid, right? I have to get this game. It had the playmaker controls. This game is going to be dope. Well, Michael Vick, unstoppable in the game. He could just drop back, run to the left, throw it deep. Who was it, Finnegan? He could do it all, right? But how did his season fare? Well, he had a fractured fibula. Kept him out in basically every game. He played 5 games, but I mean, he really didn't do much after that. Then we know ultimately how the rest of his career will turn out. He went to jail. He ended up coming back. He played for Philly. He had a couple of good seasons there. He almost was on the cover of Madden 12, but didn't quite get there. That maybe was a positive for him based on how everything's going. But that season, with the fractured fibula, only playing in 5 games, easy one. Madden 2004 cover athlete Michael Vick was cursed. So nobody has broken the curse. But we get to my man Ray Lewis. And how much do we really want to look into this? So the first year that we have the hit stick, the first defensive player on the cover of Madden was Madden 2005. Ray Lewis, a great year. We know how great that Baltimore Ravens defense was. But he had 6 interceptions the year before. The year he was on the cover in 2004, he had 0. The first time and only time in his career that he would go a season without getting an interception. On top of that, they also missed the playoffs. But he still had 147 tackles. That's a lot. Now, it was the next year after he was on the cover when he got hurt and ended up missing the 10 games. But we're looking at just the year that these players were on the cover. And like I said, this year, his interception rate dropped, still had a bunch of tackles. The team missed the playoffs. This one is tough. You're leaning on the fence between, oh, he avoided the curse. He was not cursed, or he was cursed. But I think going down to the only season he didn't get an interception, we're going to go ahead and put cursed. He was lightly cursed, but he was still cursed in 2005. But I can see the debate for the other side if you want to debate here on Ray Lewis. Now going to 2006, my man Donovan McNabb, technically on the cover twice, right? He was on the cover for the PS2 Xbox version, then he was on the cover for the Xbox 360 version. My man Donovan McNabb, 31 touchdowns the season before, went to the Super Bowl, but the next season it was a mess. It was clearly a mess. They ended up going 6-10. He missed just about half the games. Him and T.O. were butting heads. He didn't really look great. Really, after that, Donovan McNabb was never truly the same. So this one's pretty easy to me. Donovan McNabb was cursed for being on the cover of Madden 2006. On to Sean Alexander, my man with the 2 elbow pads. I always made fun of him because of those elbow pads. I don't know. Don't judge me. But anyway, Sean Alexander, man. Another guy just like Marshall Faulk. 5 straight 1,000-yard rushing seasons. But, man, did he fall off when he was on the cover. My man went from 1,880 rushing yards to 896 rushing yards. He basically rushed for 1,000 yards less than the season before. Cursed. Simple as that. Cursed. Moving on once again to another beloved of mine. We have Vince Young, Tennessee Titans Rookie of the Year. in 2006. Legendary college career. Beat the USC Trojans when nobody thought they were really beatable at that time. Had a great rookie year. And how did he bounce back? Well, my man Vince Young had that sophomore slump. 9 touchdowns, 17 interceptions. That is the wrong side. You want that flipped, man. You want that flipped. Wrong side of that ratio. Never really lived up to anything really after that one season, but this was the beginning of the end for Vince Young. He was out the league in 3-4 more seasons, didn't play that much longer. Vince Young was cursed. Now 2009, Brett Favre was supposed to be the legendary guy, man. He just retired. He was a Hall of Famer. He did so much for the Green Bay Packers. They're not going to pass the torch to Aaron Rodgers. Well, Brett Favre decided he wanted to come back, but of course Aaron Rodgers is the guy now. So you can't be the quarterback here anymore because you voluntarily gave it up. So you need to go somewhere else. And that was a trade to the New York Jets. So Madden had alternative covers, little stuff you could print out and put it on there so you could get Brett Favre in a Jets uniform. So props to EA for trying to fix and remedy this situation. So what did he do in New York? Well, he just had an NFL high 22 thrown interceptions in one season. Yes, the season after that in Minnesota, it was a great season before he threw that terrible pass that ended the game. And then that was basically it for Brett Favre. But the year he was on the cover, was trying to focus just on that. 22 career interceptions. Cursed. Simple. So we get to 2010. 2010, we have 2 guys on the cover, right? You have the Steelers' Troy Polamalu. You have the Cardinals' Larry Fitzgerald. Now, how did this one pan out? Well, it was right down the middle. Troy Polamalu was 100% cursed, right? He had a career low 20 tackles all season, but that's because he missed 11 games, had an MCL injury. Things just weren't that good for Troy Polamalu that year. But you look on the other end, the offensive end, Larry Fitzgerald, he was just a Pro Bowler, had over 1,000 yards receiving, his normal, Larry Fitzgerald stat line. So we're going to go half and half. Polamalu was cursed, Larry Fitzgerald was not. But since it was 2 guys on the cover, maybe, the cover just curses one person, and that's it, and that 2 guys. So that's kind of a wash, but I would say one was cursed, the other one was not. So 2011. New Orleans Saints quarterback Drew Brees. He is on the cover. A great season the year before. 33 touchdowns, Pro Bowler, all that good stuff once again. How does the season for Drew Brees pan out after he's on the cover of Madden 11? Well, Drew Brees, he just threw 22 interceptions. Now, we know Drew Brees can throw a high amount of picks because he throws the ball a lot. He threw 22 interceptions, and they made the playoffs. But the year that he was on the cover, and the year they made the playoffs, the Seahawks were not the Seahawks at that time. They were the 7-9 Seattle Seahawks, who somehow, just because that division was so terrible, made the playoffs. And that's when Marshawn Lynch went beast mode. And they lost to the 7-9 Seattle Seahawks in the wild card game. I don't know if that's ever happened before. A team with a losing record makes the playoffs and wins, but you have to be cursed. You have to. So Drew Brees, Madden 11, he was cursed. Peyton Hillis in 2012, Madden 12. I wanted my man Michael Vick to be on the cover. They had a special on ESPN. I want to say it was Sports Nation, something like that. They had a fan vote. Peyton Hillis won over Michael Vick. I was hurt. I was honestly hurt because you guys know I love Michael Vick. Peyton Hillis was on the cover, and I think it was for the better because nobody remembers Peyton Hillis to this day. The year he was on the cover was terrible. So the year before, he had 1,000 yards rushing. He was that guy from Arkansas what was he, a fullback in college, right, when they had Darren McFadden out there. Peyton Hillis showed that he could have been the real deal. He was a bulldozer, right? He was doing his thing. But then the year he was on the cover, he missed 6 games. He averaged a grand total of 3.6 yards per carry. And after this season, he was just a journeyman backup the rest of his career. Like I said, a lot of people don't even know who that is. You look at some young people today, say, hey, who is this on the cover of Madden 12? No idea. But side note, It's a very good game, probably the last good Madden game in terms of the franchise mode. So I guess he had that going for him. Now, Calvin Johnson. I feel like everybody was cursed basically at this point, but this is where stuff starts to change a little bit, right? At least for me. Calvin Johnson in 2013, people now want to say he was cursed because he ended up retiring early. But the year that Calvin Johnson was on the cover, Calvin Johnson did not suffer a Madden curse at all. He just had, slight stat line, just had 1,964 receiving yards. That's all he did. Just a great almost 2,000 receiving yard season. I don't think you could put Calvin Johnson in curse. I think he beat the curse, in fact, and he had a great season. Yes, he ended up retiring down the road, but there was a ton of situations there. But Calvin Johnson, the year he was on there, I would say he wasn't cursed. I think he was fine. I think everything was good. So I would say Megatron did beat the curse, but he's also Megatron, right? He might not be human, so that may be why he avoided the curse. 2014, my man Adrian Peterson was on the cover of Madden 25. I still don't like the name scheme of that, because what are we going to do when Madden 25 comes around, and was that in 5 years from now? Are they going to call it Madden 25? But anyway, back to the main thing. Adrian Peterson on the cover of Madden 25 in 2014. He was cursed, man. This one was cursed, man. He had a 1,000-yard season again. Still a couple years off of the 2,000 yard season that he had. And then, he played one game and was indicted on child abuse charges. That was Adrian Peterson's season. So definitely cursed. But we get to 2015. Richard Sherman, Super Bowl champions. What did they do? Well, he played well. His play really didn't drop too much the year he was on the cover. Yes, his interception total dropped, but you expect that, right? When a guy is that good and he's covering half of the field, especially in those zone coverages they were doing, they just weren't throwing the ball to his side. You expect your interception total to drop a little bit because they're avoiding you and you're not getting as many opportunities as usual. But his play on the field relatively was still good. Yes, he did get some injuries, but it was after the season that he had to go through the Tommy John surgery. So would you say he was cursed or not? They did lose. They didn't repeat as Super Bowl champions. Maybe you could say that was cursed. His play, I don't know, man. It was definitely tough. So my verdict was Richard Sherman cursed after being on the cover of Madden 15. This one's tough, man. I am going to say no. I'm going to say that he was all right. I'm going to say, yes, the team lost in the Super Bowl. Some people are going to put that in there. We'll get to the Tom Brady one later. But I'm going to say no, he wasn't cursed, and that Richard Sherman was just okay. Odell Beckham Jr., I mean, he got on the cover. He made a couple of great plays. Yes, they're going to keep ringing up the Josh Norman game where they were going at it and trying to throw each other on the ground. It was very entertaining to me. But other than that, he only had 1,400 receiving yards. I think that's a good season. A lot of receivers will kill for 1,400 receiving yards. I'm going to say Odell Beckham was not cursed. Now, 2017, after 2 seasons in a row, in my opinion, that the player wasn't cursed, we get to Rob Gronkowski. And how did Gronk do? He was a 5-time Pro Bowler, right? Another double-digit touchdown season. But he was hurt. Did not really play too much. He missed the first 4 games with a hamstring injury. He only played in 6 games, had a herniated disc, a bunch of other injuries as well. Rob Gronkowski ends up retiring 2 years after, but really never the same after the 2016 season, or 2015 season. So Rob Gronkowski, to me, definitely cursed. You got to throw him on the list. But his teammate comes up the next year in Tom Brady. Tom Brady, MVP season at the age of 40 years old. We know a lot of people say Tom Brady is the GOAT. And maybe his greatness avoided the curse because he had a great season. But they did lose. They did lose in the Super Bowl to Nick Foles and the Philly special and everything going on in Philadelphia. Now, was that the Madden curse why they lost? I don't think so, man. I think Philly just had a bunch. It was their time. Philly had a bunch of losing seasons, a bunch of seasons where they were disappointed, never got over that hump. They got it done. I don't think it was Tom Brady's fault. So I'm going to say Tom Brady also avoided the curse. Now, Madden 19. Get my man Antonio Brown. And Antonio Brown statistically had another very solid season. However, he didn't finish the season with the Steelers. He was sent home. Now, I don't think anybody will 100% know the exact story of what went down between the Pittsburgh Steelers and Antonio Brown. They both have two different stories, but we know he did not finish the season with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was ultimately traded away in the offseason, went to Oakland, had that whole ordeal with the helmet. Can't find the helmet, don't know what helmet you want to wear. Then goes off on the general manager. It's a lot that happened with Antonio Brown. But ultimately, Antonio Brown, after getting cut by the New England Patriots after just one game, is at home. But we have to look at the season. Just the one season is what I'm looking at right now. He was on the cover. Was Antonio Brown cursed? Man, this one's tough, man, because he didn't finish the season with the team, but on the field, he played good. But, you know, maybe we'll say he was cursed, man, because his whole career changed before the season actually ended. When he did not play the last couple games for Pittsburgh, they had in their mind they were going to get rid of him, and his whole career changed after that. So, yes, maybe, yeah, but I'll say cursed for Antonio Brown. Now we're at Madden 20. Reigning MVP, Patrick Mahomes, comes to the season, the #1 quarterback on just about everybody's list, right? But he gets an ankle injury week 1. He keeps playing through it, but we see him getting bothered with it throughout these couple of games, right? You see him coming up limping, you know, his little limp that he's been doing, kind of limping a little bit. And his game-wise, he's been playing great football, but people have started to, I just made a video about it yesterday, say who's better, you know, Deshaun Watson or Patrick Mahomes. And then Patrick Mahomes dislocates his kneecap. Hopefully he's only out for 3 weeks because there's no ligament damage there, which is good. So no torn ACL, that's good. So now he's going to miss some games. As of right now, I have to say Patrick Mahomes was cursed with the Madden Curse, man. Nobody expected this coming into the season, and it's not the season that we thought everything was going to play out, especially if he misses these couple of games, and then we'll see how he bounces back. But even before the injury, we started questioning whether or not he was the #1 quarterback in the NFL. Nobody really questioned that last season. They did this season. So we're going to say Patrick Mahomes was cursed. The Madden Curse strikes again, but there are some people that could get through it. You know, you may have to be the greatest of all time, and Tom Brady. You may have to be half man, half machine like Megatron and Calvin Johnson. You may have to just be a guy who's extremely gifted like Odell Beckham. There's a couple of guys who can get through this list unfazed, but it's hard. It's definitely hard, man. Now, is this all just a coincidence? Do you believe in the Madden Curse? Are there some guys that you believe weren't affected who I said was affected? And do you think some people were affected who I said wasn't affected? Let me know in the comment section below. Hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, please go ahead and leave this video a like. It helps me out a lot. Subscribe if you haven't already. It's your boy DLloyd. I'm gonna see y'all next time. Peace.